Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So we found more. Remember I said yesterday, if you liked that video, if you saw all the information in that video, I told you there was more, and I was not joking. It goes deeper, folks. All right. I want to get past the whole messaging aspect and liquidity layer and the banks. That was the point of that video. The main point that the banks, individual banks, get to choose their preferred technology of which the value is maintained on will move through before they connect to the SWIFT system. So if you want to know who's going to make all the capital, which I believe this is why Ripple is so giddy and so happy, they believe that they're going to be the preferred technology. If you know who is prominent at moving liquidity, acting as bridge currencies, who has global reach, then you know where the money is going to be made. It's just that simple. It doesn't take a whole lot of mental gymnastics once you do the reading. And once again, you can read that for yourself. But I want to go here. ISO. Let's go back to that because that's a huge aspect. We're seeing rebellion from the banks against the adoption of the ISO standard, right? I showed you the numbers in the video yesterday. I found something. You see how they bury things, folks? Well, you will see. Listen to this. Did you know that some of the banks, a lot of them, have voiced the opinion that ISO is not an enhancement, it's a pain point? Really? Why aren't we hearing this everywhere? And yet we have SWIFT pushing ISO. There's a deadline. They better acquiesce to this deadline. And we're sitting there scratching our heads like, wait, why are the banks? Now, of course, I believe they're also waiting on the new financial system because of things like this and just the weaponization of SWIFT, not wanting to use SWIFT. And we had other statements that I read where a lot of, prominent financial figures understood there was going to be a massive pulling away from SWIFT because of the weaponization of SWIFT. All right. So there is that. But also, who would have thought ISO was one of those things? Listen to this. It says, as banks migrate to the new ISO 20022 standard, which SWIFT is championing, the complexity itself becomes a point of complaint. The complexity itself becomes a point of complaint. Quote, several respondents, unquote, confirmed to be CHAPS direct participants. So these are major banks. Look all this up. Type it. Do a little Google search. Type it. Look this up. See with your own eyes. Then you can't deny it. Several respondents confirmed to be CHAPS direct participants, major banks, raise the, quote, larger number of purpose codes, quote, larger number of purpose codes as a risk to consistent usage, unquote, and flagged the need for clear guidance on navigating compliance alongside proprietary codes in other jurisdictions. This points to the practical difficulties banks face in implementing the necessary richer data within the SWIFT ecosystem. Did you know that? ISO is a pain point? Wait a minute. Let's click on this. Bear with me 1 minute. This is coming from around August to September 2025. Hold on a second. Who did this come from? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, Mick, who's saying that? Bank of England. The Bank of England's who's saying that? They run a bunch of polls and asked a bunch of banks different questions, etc. They did their research. This is coming directly from the Bank of England. bankofengland.co.uk, as a matter of fact. So it's serious business. Serious business. Hence, listen, with the bank coin companies, you just connect to them. They provide you with everything that you need. Hence why the preferred technology will be, and you've seen it moving towards becoming DLT technology. This is why SWIFT is scrambling. This is what the whole collaborating with Chainlink, collaborating with consensus, and they still didn't catch up. Look at the particulars of what that means for them to do such. I think I laid out a lot of that yesterday, showed screenshots and everything from SWIFT, from other institutions. Go look at that video from yesterday. And if you like that content, click that like button. If you like this content, take those powerful hands and hit that like button a couple times, a few times. It still doesn't catch them up, still doesn't solve their problems, not at all. And they're still rebellion. The deadline is coming up very soon. So now let's go here. Let's go back to, and the actual article, bear with me one moment, please. I got a little pop-up here. I'm trying to get this off the screen. The actual article from Bank of England, or rather the paper, is called Expanding Mandatory ISO 20022 Enhanced Data in Chaps from 2027. That's what it's titled, okay? And it was released September 22nd on 2025. Go read the paper. I guess it's in your hands now. All right. Not everything as it seems, which leads us to another thing, the deception. A lot of the banks have been complaining about the deception of SWIFT. They don't like it. What am I talking about? We touched on it the other day. Yeah, we did. Definitely did. What am I? I want to show you here. Bear with me. I'm scrolling up and down. I'm trying to find this little passage here. I don't have them highlighted or anything like that. Here it is. I found it. Yes. My mind has been cooking lately. I feel like we're doing some of the best research in a long time. Now, we do good research all the time. I think this is very, very good. Hidden limitations. Specifically, that the speed, remember we were talking about that, how they're lying about their speed? There's a difference, folks, and this is what I was I don't think I was so eloquent in how I put it yesterday. The speed of the message gets to the institution very quickly, while the value does not. Why? And this doesn't change with the new system that they're building. That's why they're highlighting the messaging. Can value move through it? Yes. I mean, after it moves through the preferred DLT, don't forget that. But most are not going to move value through SWIFT because of this aspect. So the messaging hits the other institution first, quickly. And SWIFT says, look, we're moving quickly. We're moving faster, folks. While the moving of the actual value, all right, is left to the individual banks still. Thus, there is still a disconnect there. Well, it says hidden limitations, specifically that the speed, quote, isn't what it seems, unquote. In the final step, quote, the last mile to customer accounts creates a significant bottleneck. This is why they're talking about interoperability, because they don't know, folks, what the preferred DLTs will be for all of these 11,000 banks that they once had control over. They no longer have control over them, but they once did. They're still under the umbrella of SWIFT, but SWIFT itself doesn't know what they're going to choose. This is why they want them all. They're trying to create a system where no matter what they use, they can connect to us. You see how that's working? It's very deceptive. So one may be much faster than the other, depending on what they choose. Then there are a bevy of a large amount of banks that absolutely don't. They don't want to use new technology. They want to stick with the legacy technology that has always worked for them, which makes sense to me. Even against what the central banks have been telling them, oh, you're going to get left behind. They don't believe that. They don't believe that. If they do believe it, they're going against it. If you're doing consistent research, you're going to come across this information, folks. I'm reading it right here to you from these things. I'm trying to give you as many things you can look up as possible that are factual. I'm just reading it from these. So that was from the Bank of England. Then this one here, let me read the rest of it. So this is from a report from LightSpark. Also serious business. Bank of England, LightSpark. LightSpark is a SWIFT competitor. They go out there and once again, they're asking the banks, what do you want? What do you think? That's what you do as a company, because now once you know what the weaknesses are in your competition, you can capitalize on it. So it says here, banks. This is from a report from LightSpark, a SWIFT competitor. It attributes this view to global banks, quote, downplaying the transaction delays. So once again, that's something they don't want people to know. They don't want people to know that ISO is a problem for many banks because this is what they're claiming, okay? That's what they're claiming. It's not my words. The complexity of it. Hence why the deadline is almost here and they haven't acquiesced yet. If you have another reasoning, let me know. I'm always learning. I'm always willing to hear. I shut my mouth and I listen. If you have some other reasoning, let me know. And once again, this is also why Ripple and companies like that are just, they're solidifying their position. They're going to be the ones to move the liquidity, to hold the value, to be the custody aspect. You see, Ripple got deep with custody. Then you heard yesterday them talking about the custody aspect of the preferred DLT acting as the holder of the value, the mover of the value. Once again, can the system they're building with consensus move value? Yes. Who knows how much? Who knows if it? But that's after the preferred DLT does everything else. All that value sitting on it. They're in charge of all of that. But let's go here. Okay, let's go here. So the critique is framed as what banks don't tell their customers. That would be a secret, right? That would be hidden, right? Then they ended off with this, implying a systemic negative view. You catching that? The majority of banks do not like SWIFT. I said it before. Just because you're utilizing something doesn't mean that you like it. You utilize it because it's necessary. But once its use has faded, you move on to something that is more useful. Hence, the new financial system. Hence, Ripple, Hedera, Cardano, all working together and them being so confident. Every single time they talk about moving value, being a bridge currency, interoperability, global reach is a big key. Liquidity, which is a problem around the world. You hearing about the Fed liquidity? Did you see the article? Fed liquidity problems. China has a liquidity problem. They're waiting to see if they're going to do stimulus. Look that up. Fiat currencies are having a major problem. Look that up. So type in something like fiat currencies or dollar losing value, gold going up, something like that. Watch what pops up for you. And then do the little thing where you click like over the last week or month so that the articles are recent. Got to be specific with these search engines these days. But wait, folks, I can go on and on with professional companies letting people know right here. We did kind of dive a little deep, but anyone could do this research. But letting people know through these very, very in-depth papers that the banks themselves have a problem with SWIFT, a multitude of problems with SWIFT. And this is why things haven't been going so smooth for SWIFT. Wait a minute. Wait. What is this here? What am I reading? Quote here. Listen to this. The quote, large number of purpose codes present a quote, risk to consistent usage, unquote, as part of the ISO 20022 migration process. Is that so? Lightspark, you got a lot to say. Wait, Lightspark? Wait a minute. This isn't Lightspark. I know, I like to keep it a little interesting. I entertain myself, folks. I do. You have to. Quote, several respondents, unquote, this from Chaps Direct participants. This was a feedback point from financial institutions to the Bank of England's consultation on expanding mandatory ISO 20022 data in Chaps, folks. See, and they don't notice how a certain region of banks, you're not hearing too much from them in this, right? Like, this information is being buried. They don't want the people to know. To know that there's a problem with SWIFT is to also understand why when the IMF comes out and they're saying that there's going to be this massive pullback from SWIFT that they had said a while ago. And then they iterated it once more this year, that anyone who is erudite wise is going to say, wait a minute, what's replacing SWIFT? They're immediately going to go to the new financial system. Then they're going to say to themselves, wait a minute, DLT is going to replace SWIFT. Which companies are at the forefront? Ripple is, as an example. It could be Ripple, Hedera, Chainlink, Solana, Stellar. It doesn't matter. But let's take Ripple. Ripple is, they have XRP, don't they? So if they become dominant, prominent, dominant, then that XRP is going to explode in value. Wait, it has utility. It's used for liquidity. It's used as a bridge currency. So that value can really explode. Then they look into it and they find now everyone's doing treasuries. So they're getting into holding XRP or trading XRP. There's XRP ETF. So all of these asset managers are trying to make money off of this bank coin. They know this. One thing leads to another logically without a whole lot of mental gymnastics. You see how we easily made that connection? Now think about that. We as individuals make that connection. They have teams of researchers and finance, not one, two, like you might have one or two, a researcher and you might have a financial analyst. They have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. They have teams. Much more easy for them to come by way of this information. This is not a game. And they're getting ready for the biggest flood of capital of all time. You don't have to agree with me. None of this is financial advice. I'm not here for that. I'm not here to convince you of anything. That's not what I do, and I'm not going to waste my time. I'm old enough to know. That's not a game you play. Oh, I got to convince somebody. No. You see my eyes right here? I'm very serious. I speak for myself. This is what I found. I'm giving you facts. Wait a minute. Wait. Wait a minute. We spoke about the IMF. Let's read a little quote here. Concerns about the political risk of SWIFT. Right, because who doesn't want to make some money? Who wants to cut themselves off out of this golden age that's about to happen where you could sell anything around the world, trade anything around the world easily? AI and robotics are going to handle the rest. Folks, it's going to, at some point, it's going to be easy. Not for everyone. Not everyone's going to be in on it. But some people are about to rise rapidly, way more rapid than any other bull run you've ever seen before. That they don't come close to what's coming. You want to talk about passive income? Listen, so who wants to cut themselves off from that? The banks don't want it. The asset managers don't want it. The NBFIs don't want it. And their capital is key to these things exploding, and we want that bank money. So they don't want to cut themselves off. We're looking at them the same way that they're looking at each other, waiting to take their value, thinking that they're all going to put it, and they will, in my humble opinion. Not all of them, but I mean, when I say all, I mean many of them. Concerns about the political risk of SWIFT access being shut down, making it a quote, tool for diplomatic pressure and sanctions. Everyone knows this. That's why there's so many alternatives, but they also act as like an overarching hub that independent or preferred DLTs have to connect to. The banks, once again, still choose their preferred DLT to connect to China's system or the Western system or Russia's system. It's all the same thing. The preferred DLTs are the ones that run the show. Look it up. Financial institutions, central banks, general / and indirect, the International Monetary Fund reportedly noted that countries outside Western influence might pull back from SWIFT due to sanctions risks. But they've said this many times. Anyone could. We've been saying this for years because we saw what happened. Hearing it from these central banks just confirms that it was true. And hence another reason why the global reach of SWIFT has waned and the new financial system led by XRP stands to absolutely explode in a way most can't fathom because they did not do the research. They didn't see the real information. They might hear a little bit here and there. Maybe they saw a little bit here and there. They heard someone talk about it. We're getting direct information, seeing it ourselves, you and I. Not many people, not many, know this type of information. Welcome to the club. So now, So now listen to this. I give you these last two quotes here from esteemed institutions. And then maybe we'll come back tomorrow. If this video does well, people click that like button and I see interest, we'll come back because there's much more that we can cover. It says this: the continued use of SWIFT as a tool for sanctions has created an active political risk that financial institutions in certain regions must now manage. This is an inconvenient factor forcing global firms to plan for the risk of the quote risk of sudden disconnection. The critique highlights that the era of financial neutrality that has ended as monetary systems have become political tools, leading to, quote, significant fragmentation. Not fragmentation because of technology. That's important. So what they're doing now, it doesn't solve this problem of fragmentation. You see? Who does solve the problem of fragmentation? XRP, XRPL, Hedera, Chainlink, Solana, Stellar, etc. You get the idea, right? It doesn't solve that. It only solves the technological aspect, and barely that, because once again, they're going to be cut off. The large part of the world doesn't want to use that system. But once again, it's political. That cannot be repaired. The trust has already been broken, leading to, quote, significant fragmentation, beg your pardon, and increased compliance burdens for banks. This is coming from the Atlas Institute for International Affairs, folks. Serious business once again. All of these institutions are saying the same thing. They're all pointing towards the same end, the same conclusion. SWIFT is not the one. It's not what it used to be. It is I don't know how to put it. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. But the people are used to it, so they still think it's this big, powerful entity is going to win. And then SWIFT paints a great picture. Once again, this information all is buried. Why is it not prominent? This all came out in 2025. But they have the capital to bury things. Make sure it doesn't make mainstream news. So when SWIFT comes out, they're saying, well, we're building a blockchain. We're doing this. The way they paint it is as if they've won. They don't need this or no. They make themselves seem more mighty than they actually are. They're in a very precarious position. So once again, this comes from the Atlas Institute for International Affairs. Okay. So now let's scroll down here. This is the last one, and then we'll get to a little bit of Bitcoin news. I want to read this to you. So I feel like I gave you a lot of good information here. A major report noted that many banks are still falling behind on the mandatory switch to new ISO 20022 standard, which is required for Swift's modernization as of May 2025. Less than half, 41.2% of cross-border instructions use the new format. This, which is also showed the same in June, just about the same, about 40%. Quote, upgrading, it says, this is due to the difficulty and cost of, quote, upgrading legacy payment systems. That's not going to change today. The world is in an even harsher economic circumstance than it was a few months ago, than it was a few years ago. But let's keep going. Quote, upgrading legacy payment systems, especially for small to mid-sized banks. So if there's a problem upgrading to this system, and yet if they were to choose the new financial system, DLT, they don't need this. They don't need this. Then we understand why recently Ripple was talking about going after the small and medium-sized banks over the summer. Remember that? See how this all lines up? Didn't I tell you it will be easy, in my humble opinion, not financial advice, it'll be easy to take the small and medium-sized banks because of all the different problems and complaints that they've had against the larger banks? This is being pushed by the larger banks, this whole adoption, which they don't have. How did they phrase it here? I'm going to give it to you a little bit more accurate than I would just going off the top of the dome. Let's see here. This is due to the difficulty and cost. They don't have the capital. And they don't want to retrain the entirety of their staff, or however much of their staff, to be able to utilize these new systems. Welcome. You're a researcher now. This is what we do. This is what we do. All right. So It says, oh, so especially for small and medium-sized banks who are delaying the deployment in favor of, quote, more urgent near-term plans. Who made it this far into the video? That's a bomb they just dropped. What's the more urgent near-term plans? What's that? That's rather opaque, rather vague. Obviously, their day-to-day activities, things that they do all the time, should not be urgent, logically. What they're used to year in and year out, it should not be urgent. It's just another day. What's urgent? The adoption of preferred DLT, so they can get around this possibly. They can circumnavigate. Is that the proper term? I believe it is. Circumnavigate SWIFT system. They can go around it. They don't have to deal with SWIFT. It's optional now. I don't know if people understand that. It's optional now. DLT is here. The bank coins are here now. All right, folks, let's do a little bit of Bitcoin news. We'll close out with this. We'll come back tomorrow, maybe with a little bit more of that SWIFT information if people enjoyed this video here today. So now, this article is titled Bitcoin at a Critical Level. Bullseye $120,000 rebound ahead. I'm not worried about Bitcoin whatsoever. Bitcoin looks super bullish. All the catalysts are getting stronger and stronger. The causes are getting stronger, and thus the effect should be great. It says the BTC buy-sell pressure delta entered an opportunity zone, while a drop in sending addresses signals easing sell pressure. You don't say. We've seen it. You just watch the price and you see the resilience of it, right? A rising Coinbase premium index reflects renewed institutional buying, supporting Bitcoin's chances of a rebound toward $120,000. Bitcoin's price could be nearing an inflection point after the recent corrections. The technical picture is flashing an intriguing setup, and positive on-chain metrics are reinforcing the likelihood of a projected market shift ahead. Projected market shift. Yeah, okay. I mean, yes, I've read too many Bitcoin articles. Maybe I'm just taking that the wrong way. There is an explosion ahead. Let's just talk to the people plainly so they can understand. So as many people understand as possible, should they want to act upon the opportunity, article writers, I mean, they can do what they want, not financial advice. I'm just saying, speak plainly to them. There's an explosion coming. There's no way around it. Too many companies getting involved, and they haven't even begun to play hard yet. BTC 60-day. I mean, BlackRock says that they're trying to get more of Wall Street involved. BlackRock said that. Vanguard is now getting into Bitcoin. You see where this is all going? Bullish is the word, folks. Bullish is the word of the day. So now that you have the information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.